She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy gazpacho.
Bournemouth can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Right, did you know that Arsenal died?
He's got me buzzing.
Up the TOFFEEs. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm not even gonna comment on that.
Welcome back to Footy with the boys. We have a hell of an episode. A hell of an episode. A lot of big results in the Premier League, a Champions League week, and of course the US men's national team will be releasing a roster a little bit later this week, most likely. Some injuries to update on, some form to update on, and what do we want to see from Mr. Pochettino here? Probably the largest decision for something American related in this upcoming week, don't you think, guys? Can't think of anything else.
What?
Largest decision in America? The U.S. roster?
Oh. Yes.
I was talking about the election.
Whoa!
Oh, hey, we don't get political on this pod.
Yeah, come
We
on, Mike.
don't get political. We've got trouble for that before. But make sure you vote for Jill Stein. She needs all your votes.
All right. If you want to write in
Ukraine, that's what I'm
Pochettino,
voting for.
you'll have even more power to put all of our military budget spending into soccer player development. It is what we need. Write in Pochettino. Also, a thank you to all of you guys for 200 subscribers. We definitely did not hit it last episode. Forgot to say it. We definitely only hit it for this one. But thank you so much. Let us know in the comments what you want to see here. Now that we're blowing up, we're basically the Joe Rogan of soccer podcasts, they would say. But boys, let's get into the footy. Let's get away from the flowers to ourselves. We are just a massive podcast now. But speaking of massive, two massive clubs, Manchester United and Chelsea, played since our last pod. They draw. I was expecting this one to be something that Chelsea would kind of demolish Manchester United, who are in a bit of dire straits at the moment without a manager. Kind of just been shit all season. Chelsea, I thought, maybe could beat them here in a Big Six matchup and kind of set themselves up on the right track. But a draw here, is this maybe a turning of the page for Manchester United and a failure to turn the page for Chelsea, Nick?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know about the Man U thing. I think that one's just fire the guy that everyone hates, and you play a little bit more spirited. But Chelsea didn't even look good. Like I didn't think they were that great this game. I've been penciling them in as my top 4 favorite. A lot of that has to do with Cole Palmer, who seems to be ghosting against some better sides in the league right now. So some question marks there. I think a lot of people, just wrote him in as the main guy, and obviously an amazing season last year from the goals and assists and play aspect. Right now, I don't think he could just will a club on his own in like big games. I think that's a fair criticism to say, even though he's a very talented player. So, gonna need some more help there. Theoretically, they have 40 other players that could help them, but it didn't show up in this game, and I don't know. Kind of doubting my Chelsea top 4 take.
Yeah, I mean, Cole Palmer can will them to quite a bit. He had a disgusting nutmeg on, I think, Ugarte in this game, like out of the air, dropped it.
It was a nutmeg, though, dude.
I know, but it was just...
We all know Flags plays for Megs.
Nasty.
He counts them as goals.
I love that. Cole Palmer
that is not willing your team.
Yeah, I do think it if we are saying to turn the page on Chelsea and become that next level rather than what they've kind of been building on from the end of Pochettino's time and the start here of Maresca, I do think that they need to have other people stepping up to be kind of that Robin to Cole Palmer's Batman, because right now it's really dependent on if Cole Palmer has a hell of a game, if he scores, if he gets the assist. If not, I don't know exactly what happens with Chelsea in these big games, and this is kind of a showing is they can't beat a Manchester United side that had been struggling. Mike, elsewhere in the Premier League, Spurs dominate Aston Villa wild result here, 4-1. James Maddison with a peach of a free kick to put the little cherry on top, and Solanke with a brace. I mean, is this not just the most Spurs run of form ever? They lost to Crystal Palace before beating Manchester City in a cup, I will say, but then beating Manchester City and then Aston Villa. I mean, that run of form is just the most Spursy thing I've seen.
Yeah, super Spursy, and they'll probably end up losing next weekend, depending on no matter who they play. Like, absolute domination, some big balls tactics from Ange, and some big calls from him. He drops Maddison to the bench, makes a sub for Sonny about the 50-minute mark after he gets an assist, and didn't seem like he could put a foot wrong in his tactics and his substitutions. They all worked out well. Richarlison somehow made an unselfish play, contributed to a great goal. Brennan Johnson continues his hot form. Solanke gets on the sheet, and then James Maddison, who didn't start the game, only plays a handful of minutes, scores a peach of a free kick. Everything went right except for the injury bug that continues to haunt them. Mickey Van de Ven already down with an injury. Christian Romero went down with one in this game, so there goes both your starting center backs. Not sure the extent of either injury, but when you're Dragusin and Ben Davies are your two center backs, that is a scary state of affairs going forward. They dealt with that all last year, had a great run of form, and then got hit with the biggest injury bug, and kind of the wheels fell off. So we'll see what happens this year.
Yeah, and we'll certainly see a lot between these two teams. They were neck and neck last season for top 4 contention. This season, there are some other contenders for that top 4 slot, and certainly some surprises that we'll talk about with how the table is shaken up right now. But
the trees.
We'll see what happens here. Aston Villa maybe getting stretched by Champions League and the big matchups they've been having there, and overlooking a Tottenham team here. But they were not the only big team, Aston Villa, to kind of drop from what you would expect some better performances out of. Manchester City lost to Bournemouth 2-1. Tyler Adams getting in the 65th minute in this one, put in a good shift. But boys, Bournemouth is undefeated in their last 3 games, including Arsenal, Aston Villa, and Manchester City. I joke that it's Tyler Adams coming back. This is just an absurd run of form for Bournemouth that puts them in 10th place, when realistically, if they went through and got 0 points out of the stretch, I don't think if you're a Bournemouth fan, you're that upset. You're just thinking, okay, yeah, that is what arguably the toughest stretch you could really have, other than if you into those 3. I mean, how impressive is this for Bournemouth? And also at the same time, how disappointing it is for City, because as we'll get into a lot more detail shortly after this, there was a chance for City to really stamp away some distance between them and Arsenal here.
Yeah, I think it's huge for Bournemouth. I mean, I think Pep said it pretty well after the game. He was like, listen, at this point, everyone just expects us to be treble winners and win every game 5-0, which, you know, with a squad like that and the history they've had these past 5 years, I think everyone does expect that to happen. So Bournemouth was just a better team on the day, and Man City obviously down a couple of key players, but Cherries look amazing. Semenyo continues to be great. Evan Nielsen, who no one really talked about as a transfer this summer, has looked good at the 9 and got his deserved goal today. They tried to give Man City like 30 extra minutes of extra time because, you know, the refs are in City's pocket, but couldn't claw back here, and Bournemouth are deservedly taking home 3 points. I think it shows the title, you know, is more up in the air than it has been in previous years. Which sucks for me because we're playing like shit. But overall, it should make for hopefully a more exciting run-in of games here as we get closer to the back half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, certainly entertaining, and Semenyo has been on a tear this season. Evan Nielsen has proven to be a good signing as well, getting some goals here. Some big goals, a lot of late ones that have been helping him out. Look out for the Cherries. They're making some noise. But like I did say, let's get into our featured kind of reviews here. The Gunners and the Toffees. Starting with the Gunners.
Do we have to?
Yeah, both of us do.
Just
we
want to
can
skip
skip the next week. Let's just go previews. Fuck this.
No, I have not.
Yeah, I mean, this is
unfortunately,
a venting
they're not very
session.
positive though.
This is therapy. If BetterHelp wants to sponsor us, this would be maybe a good segment to do so, because venting, it's healthy, and then there's going to be a lot of that in this upcoming section here. Because Nick, Arsenal against Newcastle. Newcastle is a good team, but it's more so, at least in my eyes, a 1-0 loss here to Newcastle. It's more so the kind of the pattern now, the run of form that Arsenal are in, rather than this individual result. It's 0 wins in their last 3, with 2 of those being losses, in a title race that is just absurdly hard to win without having near perfection. Having a run of form like this is just what I'd imagine a gut punch. What did you see in this game, and how do you kind of feel about Arsenal as a whole right now? Obviously, not a good run of form here.
I mean, obviously, one of those losses came with a man down, and then all the absences with the draw at Liverpool, where I thought we played great. But no excuses for this one. This one fucking sucked. I mean, Arsenal were atrocious. They were not up for it. They basically just triple teamed Saka and said somebody beat us, and nobody stepped up. I mean, nobody stepped up to beat them. I think blame it goes all around. I think I've been a staunch defender, and you guys have called it out before. But you both have said that left-hand side in the attack needs some revamping, or at least some competition. And I think that was very fair criticism today. Martinelli looked way off of it, and I'm a huge believer in his talent and his mentality. But if we're honest, he's been not at his best for a year. There's a guy who had 20 goal contributions in the Premier League, and rough year last year with injuries. This year, sporadic at best, maybe. So I think it's fair to toss a lot of criticism on him. The guy who's supposed to be his competition, Trossard, was absolutely awful. I mean, I was begging for Gabby Jesus to get on at a certain point in the second half of that game, and I mean, that guy is washed beyond belief. So I just a lot of blame on individual players, a lot of blame on Mikel Arteta. He just seems like he has like 13, 14 guys that he wants to trust, and he's not willing to give opportunities to the rest of the squad, which, why are they even there if you're not going to? And yes, I'm talking about Nwaneri. He has proven every single time he's been on the pitch to be the best player on the pitch at that moment, and he won't give him a single start. I get he's 17. I get St. James is a hard place to play. Newcastle played exactly how we'd expected them to. That ball's barely in play in the second half. But I mean, you cannot ask Trossard or Havertz to be your chief creator. That is not either of their roles. That is not in their, that's just not them. And guys like Marino are really great pieces to a team, but they're not guys who are going to drive your team forward. And at the end of the day, we didn't have a single one of those guys once they took Saka out of the game. So Nwaneri, I think, can be a guy. I think he deserves a lot of blame to not play him. The substitutions were late. They were uninspired, and we deserved to lose. It was an ugly, ugly performance. 1 point in our last 9 out of our last 9 possible is atrocious if you're trying to win this title. And it hurts all the much more that Man City's opening the door and we're just shitting the bed. So yeah, pretty crap weekend.
Yeah. Does it at all help though that Man City lost? That you
I don't know, because with Arsenal, there's always hope one way or another. Last year is we're amazing, but City was just better. This year is City isn't as great, but we're just sucking. Like, so is this just my life? Is this what I'm supposed to be? Is this what I am doomed to experience for the rest of my life? I mean, history has taught me nothing different. So, yeah, the door is still open. No, we're not out of this title race. There's a lot of games left to be played, but I mean, Odegaard's coming back next week. That'll be a big game versus Chelsea that we'll talk about later. But I mean, nothing in the past month has been remotely positive related to Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah. Nick, I want to ask you a question. Oh, Flax, we'll come back to you real quick. This is just a quick one. And I just want your thoughts on it. About social media. Arsenal fans are very reactive, as all fans are of big clubs. The Mikel Arteta out rumors or talking are already happening. I'm not giving any credence to it. I don't think it's legit at all. How do you feel about that? Is it just absolute bullshit? And then along with that, your sporting director resigns. Edu Gaspar, I think it seems out of the blue. I'm not that tuned in as you are. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think both those actually go kind of hand in hand with what I have to say. I am firmly Arteta in. I think it's a bit foolish to think otherwise. No, he has not won anything. Yes, it's been 6 years. I mean, he has an FA Cup, so credit to him. But even that was like early in his project, his first 6 months. But there's been steady improvement throughout the entire time. I think now really is the only time we can say we've regressed a little, and it's just been for 3 weeks. And so I'm not too worried about that. I think we'll bounce back. I just don't know if it'll be too little too late with the way City and Liverpool look. So I'm Arteta in, but honestly, like if you can make a case to say Arteta, there are real issues there, and I think there's some fair criticism. I don't like the starting 11. This long at a club this big without a trophy. Again, the FA Cup his first year, so we'll say 5 years without a trophy. I think it's fair to criticize that too, even though I understand it's a long-term project. And I do think maybe he's starting to get. I mean, he clearly has the most power in the club, and especially with Edu resigning. Edu, whose salary got tripled, it looks like, and got a higher job title. So I don't blame him. His value's at an all-time high. If he should cash in, I don't think it has anything to like do of reflective of the Arsenal project. But that puts more pressure on Arteta's shoulders, and they're saying he's going to be like the main voice of who to hire as a sporting director. And so if he gets that wrong, he deserves a lot of blame for that too. And he's been very instrumental in the players we're bringing in. And Sterling flops, and Marino's not a game changer, and Havertz is good, but not a Holland, not a Gyökeres. Or I don't know if he would work with low blocks, but you know what I'm trying to say. So now there's not a lot of those guys. So I get that too, but still, there's definitely fair criticism. I think to say Arteta out is turning a blind eye to all the amazing progression that we've made, as well as turning a blind eye to the absolute dumpster fire that was Arsenal Football Club before he came. So I'm firmly Arteta in, but I think questions are fair.
Yeah, I mean,
Good answer.
I also believe that Arteta out is a bit crazy given where
It's
Arsenal
premature.
Football Club was and where they are now. And like Nick said, this is 3 weeks of regression after years and years that constantly have built on each other. But Mike, quickly here before we move on to Everton, get into some more ranting there. I mean, Liverpool's 7 points up right now on Arsenal. I understand that, it's still early in the season, a lot can happen, but 7 points is a pretty large margin, and 5 for City, that seems like, 5, it's a lot, but can happen. Is Liverpool maybe close to kind of having too big of a lead on Arsenal for Arsenal to come back and take a title here, especially with how fine the margins have been, with basically winning almost every game it needed to win a title?
I don't think they're too far. It seems really competitive right now. It's good to see. Teams are actually losing. Man City looks vulnerable. Liverpool does look good, but let's not forget they lost to Nottingham Forest at home at Anfield. That is a big result. That does show that they're beatable at home, which they haven't really shown in a number of years. Certainly say they're the favorite right now based on form, how they're playing. They have, the most options up front, I think, in the league when they're healthy. The amount of wingers and strikers they have, it's a serious amount of talent. The midfield is also very good, but injuries happen. They're not perfect either. They're vulnerable on both of their outside backs. Teams will figure that out at some point. That high line will get beat. They don't have a true 6. Gravenberch look great right now, and McAllister looks solid too. But there are weak points in that squad, and I could see them losing games. It's way too early to tell where they're going to finish. I'm sure it's going to be in the top 3, but to say they're going to run away with it, I think it's way too early.
Yeah, I think 7-point advantage on somebody like Arsenal is big, but obviously I think City is maybe their main focus right now and trying to stay ahead there. Going across the Merseyside,
though. You need to win a goddamn game.
Yep.
Yeah. Going across the Merseyside, we're winning and having large advantages on opponents is not something that we have right now. Everton lose to Southampton, and honestly, Mike, from the start of this game, Southampton had plenty of chances, But even with that, Everton had plenty of their own chances to finish this game, to put it themselves in the lead. I mean, right before Southampton scored, right off the crossbar from Beto, it seems like a big swing here. It's a 6-point loss basically here. Southampton get 3, we get 0. It's a bit of a gut punch for Everton here, because I thought we were almost above this, starting to play a lot better. And then you get this, and we're going to West Ham next. It just seems like we really missed an opportunity here. How did you see it this weekend?
100% miss an opportunity. We lost to the worst team in the league, or one of the worst teams in the league. Southampton's looked terrible all year. I mean, they concede so many goals, and our attack looked that flat. I mean, sure, we had a few chances late off the crossbar, and VAR, I mean, rightfully so, overturned that goal from Beto. He was offside. But you got to create more. We got dominated in possession. I know that's not our brand. We like to play on the counter and we like to sit, but when you're playing a team like this, you have to get a grasp on the game earlier. I thought that was just a huge missed opportunity. I still am not a lover of Mike Keane starting. Jared Branthwaite sure is coming back from injury, but he's been healthy for fucking weeks now, and he's still starting on the bench and coming into games late. He's our best ball playing center back by a mile. He breaks lines, which is something that's super important for us because we don't have that out of any of our other defenders. Big missing piece. I thought the Beto sub was good. Dom wasn't creating shit. Beto has, I guess, a bit of form off that goal and looked lethal, but it's really super disappointing. I mean, we lost to Southampton. This is a huge missed opportunity. We won't win a lot of games this year. That's just the facts. There's not a lot of teams that we should beat. That's one of them. Maybe we'll beat West Ham next week. They're not very good either, but this has to be 3 points, or at the minimum, it had to be 1, and we lost. I mean, horrible. It doesn't matter that it's away. You can't perform like that and then expect to stay up in this league. That's one where if we're getting to crunch time towards the end of the season, we're going to look back and say, that's where we bit ourselves in the ass. I mean, I'm very disappointed. I thought we had form too. I mean, we've been playing okay the last couple of weeks. The draw against Fulham was a bit of magic. We really didn't deserve to get a result in that game, and we did. And then this is how we progress afterwards. Definite decline. Need to see something against West Ham. Don't expect a whole lot of changes in the squad because we don't have players who are going to change the game. But you got to figure something out. Like, what do you think, Flags?
I mean, between the 2 games in a row that we lost a 2-0 lead and then this loss to Southampton, I know we've said previously, I mean, we're at that unbeaten streak where it was like, okay, maybe we're finding 40 around, but it's going to take a lot from Everton for me to believe they're really not in a relegation scrap anymore, because they just prove themselves to constantly shoot themselves in the foot and constantly put themselves in positions where it is going to be a scrap. I mean, if we get this win here, I think you can start saying, hey, maybe it won't be that type of season. That'd be 5 games unbeaten with 3 wins. I mean, we're trending very high upward, even with those disgusting 0-2 turnarounds that we allowed. But a loss to Southampton, I just think really just trips up any type of momentum you would have away to West Ham, which, yes, they've struggled, but still are going to be just so much better quality-wise than what Everton have. And I don't know. It's a bit of a gut punch, I think. And I just think Everton are right back to kind of where we were a couple weeks ago, thinking, damn, we need every point we can get because it's going to be a scrap here. And that's scary. I don't want that stress anymore. Are you seeing the same way of it's going to be a relegation battle? I know just a couple weeks ago we were saying, I don't think we're going to be in it.
It's been so up and down. I mean, the season started as bad as possible. Then you think you find some form, you go undefeated for 4 games, and then, right, it's a gut punch. You lose to the worst team in the league. sure, our strength of schedule is not crazy the next couple of games. I mean, we have West Ham, Brentford, Man U, but how many wins do you expect out of those three? I can't really even say one after a performance like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you're losing to Southampton, you can't really say you're going to win any of those other matches. We'll move here, Nick, to a massive matchup for one of the title favorites here, and it's Liverpool, Aston Villa. Aston Villa coming off of a tough matchup against Tottenham. Like we just talked about Liverpool having that 7-point lead. You said you don't think it's really enough for them to run away with. There are some issues that you can point out. Aston Villa just had a 4-1 loss. They're going to be coming into this one kind of needing a bounce back of form, or else, I mean, 2 losses in a row. It's not looking great for the Villains there. What do you expect to see out of this one, Arnie versus Unai Emery? Pretty big matchup here, Liverpool, Aston Villa.
Yeah, I still put Liverpool as the favorite at Anfield, better form, but this is a game that could get caught. Aston Villa is very dangerous in the attack, have some super dynamic players on the wing, Morgan Rogers, Jacob Ramsey, Leon Bailey if he's on it. This could get scary for Liverpool. If they let one in early, I think Aston Villa could win this game. It's hard to say that after they get walloped by Tottenham, but that's how I see it. I'm excited for this one.
I kind of do see it the same way. Is this maybe you think an inroad for City and Arsenal? Because I mean, Aston Villa most certainly can take points off of Liverpool, and that's something that's been rare this season.
Liverpool's only played who is it? I think it's just Arsenal, Chelsea, and Nottingham Forest in the top 10 so far. They beat Chelsea. Obviously, the draw versus Arsenal has, it's a good point at the Emirates for them for sure. And then they lost to Forest. So they're going to come up like in more of a stiffer part of their schedule coming up here in the run into Christmas. And I think we're going to learn a lot about them. You said earlier, like they're 7 points ahead. Are they starting to distance themselves? 7 points is big. There's no getting around that. But also, we're going to find out a lot about them in these next 6 weeks. So I think it starts here. And honestly, I kind of like Villa in this game. I think what they do well is just have a lot of pace in the attack. And it feels like if a team has one pacey outlet, then Liverpool can deal with it. But if it's like a whole front line that can run at you, then things start getting pretty scary. So I don't love how they match up against Villa. I'm pretty sure it's at Anfield, so that's definitely a plus. But like you said, they lost to Forest at home already this year. Villa is going to be pissed off after an absolute ass kicking from last week, and yeah, I think I like Villa.
Yep, and if Villa does win, that would help out Arsenal quite a bit. But Arsenal are going to need quite the game themselves, as they're going to be going up against the number 4 in the table, Chelsea Blues here. Chelsea and Arsenal level on points at this point in the season. Not sure we would have said that going into the season, 10 games in, that Chelsea and Arsenal would be level on points. But regardless, Nick, it's a massive matchup. We talked about maybe an over-reliance on Cole Palmer for Chelsea because they don't really have that next person up. Right now for Arsenal, or at least in previous games, it's been kind of Saka as that main option, and other people have not been stepping up. You don't really have that creative spark. Odegaard potentially returning here, does that shift the tide here, or what do you think here? Chelsea Arsenal, pretty huge matchup, probably the biggest matchup between the two in some years here.
It's at Stamford Bridge. Let's not forget Arsenal was down 2-0 at Stamford Bridge last year when, there was signs of progression, but they were not where they are at now, I would argue. So it's going to be a tricky matchup for sure. I don't love our chances if we start that same starting 11. I'll tell you that much right now. I think we need a chief creator in there. One thing I have liked about Arteta is he's moved Declan Rice back to the 6, which thank God, because I'm so sick of him playing in those half spaces at the 8. He's maybe the best 6 in the world. Like, I don't know why we don't use him there every single game. I get the pressing, but Marino's there now too. So if if Rice is at the 6 and if either Odegaard and Wehre is starting at the 10, then I like our chances quite a bit versus the Chelsea side that I don't love their midfield, and I get Cole Palmer's great, but I'm betting on Declan Rice in that matchup. So yeah, I like Arsenal if that happens. If not, all bets are off. I have no idea what will happen. Maybe we'll turn into set piece FC again and get a win. Maybe we'll, just look like a team that doesn't have any ideas and we won't be able to pull out 3 points at Stamford Bridge. All I know is Arsenal are desperate for the 3 points, and I have stopped questioning their mentality for about a year now. So I'm going to keep backing the boys. I think we're going to get the job done, but it's definitely a huge matchup before the schedule starts getting at least a little bit easier. I know we have Forest after them, but even after that, it starts to level out a bit.
Yeah, certainly an interesting game, especially with Enzo Maresca and Arteta both being Pep disciples. Seeing those two kind of clash and see the chess match. Mike, thoughts on the game here, and also how many of these Chelsea players get into the Arsenal 11 this year here?
I think this is a tricky game. Arsenal plays Inter on Wednesday, so obviously we'll put out a full squad there. I'd expect their best starting 11. I mean, that's a massive game in the Champions League. One of the better teams they're going to play all year, even outside of the Premier League. Inter is a phenomenal team. Chelsea plays in Conference League, but essentially rotate their entire squad, so won't really factor into this match. Probably will have most of their starters rested. It's a huge one. Arsenal really needs this to put a stamp back on them being an elite team in the Premier League. I think they are, but you got to prove it, and this would be a big win to do it, especially in the London derby. Chelsea players getting into Arsenal, I think there's a few. None of the back line, really, in my opinion.
Not the keeper.
Not the keeper. Reece James would have a shout if he was healthy, but hasn't been in for so long.
Yeah.
He'd have a shout 4 years ago.
Moises Caicedo probably has a real shout based on his form this year. He's been very, very good.
He was balling against Manchester United.
If you're going to play two deep-lying midfielders, I think him and Dex could both be in there. I think Cole Palmer definitely gets his way into the squad, whether that's at an attacking mid with Odegaard being out or on the left wing. And then Nicholas Jackson probably has a shout based on his form this year. Definitely not a lock, though. Those would be the guys I'd include.
Yeah. Nick, any contest to that, or fair enough from Mike?
No, Cole Palmer would have to start at the 10 in this combined 11, and I probably wouldn't start him at the 9. I still like Havertz at the 9, but Nico Jackson on the left, he can run his ass off. That'll be fine.
Yeah, Nico Jackson, credit to him. Last season, he was shocking at times, and this season he's really been a good threat for Chelsea. So, tip the cap to him there. Let's go through the rest of the Premier League. Premier League rundown. Big matchup. Manchester City versus Brighton. Brighton thought they could have done it against Liverpool last weekend. They'll have another chance at one of the giants here in Manchester City. Brentford and Bournemouth. Brentford seemingly always get some type of a lead before pissing it away late. That happened again today against Fulham. And Bournemouth on an unreal run of form. So we'll see what happens when they clash. Newcastle and Nottingham Forest. Who would have thought this would be a top of the table matchup? And Nottingham Forest would be the higher ranked one when we went into the season. Nottingham Forest right now 3rd in the table. Manchester United versus Leicester. You would hope that Manchester United can get this game, but if you're Leicester City, with all the unsure nature going around at Manchester United, this might be an opportunity. Points in a game that maybe previously they wouldn't think would have been available. Tottenham up against Ipswich Town. It would be very Tottenham of them to beat Manchester City, beat Aston Villa, and then lose to Ipswich Town.
Ipswich will get their first win this weekend. Ipswich will get their first
heard
win.
that before.
If we saw that, that'd be something. West Ham against Everton, as we've already said. Wolves versus Southampton. Southampton already got their first win, unfortunately, last weekend. But for Wolves, they are still searching for their first. I kind of think Wolves will win that. But Mike, what's your game to watch here? Or maybe a storyline within the games that you're looking at.
Man City, Brighton for sure. Thought Brighton should have beat Liverpool. Had a lot of chances. Cracked the crossbar a few times. If they had better shooting on the day, they would have won that game. Let Liverpool hang around too long and come back. Man City, Kevin De Bruyne back in. See what that does for Haaland. Haaland really hasn't scored goals in a number of games. But when he's got De Bruyne pulling passes, I'm sure he'll find his shooting touch. I think that's a banger matchup. And then Nottingham, Newcastle as well. I mean, Chris Wood is fucking on fire. Gets his old team. I'd expect him to be on the score sheet. This Nottingham Forest team is something right now. A lot of talent in there. Didn't think they'd be nearly this good this season, but are really, really impressive.
Yeah. Nick, what about you? What's the one that's standing out the most?
Fucking hell, he took all of them. Like,
I know. Multiple answers.
I was gonna say Newcastle and Nottingham too. Newcastle's 11th right now. That's kind of crazy. Like that's a big win against Arsenal, only to put them in 11th. That's kind of nuts. So I think Nottingham Forest. If that game's is it at St. James? Is that game over there, or is it at King Power or not King Power? Where do they play? I don't know. Or is it at City Ground?
Vitality Stadium.
It's at the City Ground.
No, that's Bournemouth. City Ground.
It is at the City. Yep.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So either way, it's gonna be a big game. Newcastle, that goal, credit to them, was beautiful. Beautiful Anthony Gordon cross to Isak there. So they definitely have the quality. Nottingham can kind of stamp that they're for real, or Newcastle can claw their way back in. I think I love the storylines of that game.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. The storylines of Nottingham Forest Newcastle is, I mean, there's a lot of big implications to come here. If Nottingham Forest win, I mean, they're right now third in the table, so it may be harsh to say they still need to prove themselves, but I mean, they were shit last season. So it's going to take some time to earn that trust. But if they win against Newcastle here, I mean, they're going into the international break in third. They're looking good. This would be a big win. And if you're Newcastle, I mean, you're shifting down the table. I know there was a lot of shots, the England job and all that. He's there at Newcastle now. He's stuck there. But does there become some pressure on Eddie Howe's job if they're slipping down to like 12th, 13th, Mike?
Yeah, there were talks last year about pressure after, not reaching the same standards from the season before, getting the Champions League. Obviously different this year, not playing in any European competition. Really can just focus on the league, but they have not shown it. Sure, they have some major injuries, but they have enough talent in that squad. I mean, Tonali's back. He's just not really playing. They should be a lot better than they are. On paper, they still outclass Nottingham, so it should be a win, but maybe Nottingham is just legit. We'll have to see. I'm really looking forward to that.
I hope they are. It'd be quite the turn.
I hope they're not. I hope every team sucks except for Everton, but that's just not the case.
You know what? I don't think that Nottingham Forest and Everton are going to be in the same sphere this year. So whatever. We'll see what happens there. Boys, we have a massive weekend or week coming up where the U.S. men's national team roster for the Nations League will be announced. Let's get into a little U.S. men's national team corner here. Let's start where we always start. Mr. Christian Pulisic, the man in Milan, started at the number 10 this weekend, and he looked damn good. He was piecing together so much, had so many dribbles, decisive passes. His cross that was headed by Morata got deflected by the keeper or the defender, I believe, and then Tijani Reinders with the finish on that one. So was directly involved in that goal. I mean, he is on fire, was playing at the 10 and has been playing at the 10 a decent amount for Milan. Still has been more productive at that right wing spot. But, I mean, we saw Malik Tillman, and certainly this weekend for PSV, he struggled a lot against Ajax. He was in a bit of a more deep line playmaker role there, but he hasn't looked great. Brendan Aronson looks great for Leeds, but he still hasn't shown for the U.S. Is it time to maybe put Pulisic at the 10 for the U.S., or we just got to rock with him on the wing because he's also looked absurd there? Nick?
No way can we put him at the 10. Who's taking that left spot? we don't have the wingers. Like, he has to be there. I think all in all, it's still his preferred position, even though obviously the system at Milan, he's thriving in that 10 role. But McKennie's looked good advanced. Why not put McKennie up? And we have more depth in the midfield options. I'd be okay with that. But no, if you're putting him in the 10, you're just creating another hole in the squad. And let's not do that. Let's keep him at the left. It's worked. He's our best player there.
Yeah, our winger depth is shoddy at best. I will say, I love the McKennie shout. McKennie with a goal this weekend against Parma, and wehre said he will not be outdone. Speaking of the winger depth, good to have him back. He was injured last window. He gets a goal and an assist. So the Juventus duo kind of popping off here. And Tim Weah's looked awfully dangerous. He's actually been on that left wing. I mean, Weston McKennie has been playing at that 10 as well and just creating chance after chance, headers. I mean, them as a duo have looked very good when I've been watching the Juventus games here. Mike, do you think McKennie at the 10 is maybe the answer right now? Because it doesn't seem like we do have a solid answer with Gio Reyna out, and really everybody else we've tried just hasn't looked that great.
Yeah, I think it's worth a shot. I think our deep-lying midfielders are deeper anyway. We have more options there. We always struggle with someone who has attacking prowess in the midfield. I mean, Brendan Aronson looked shocking there last window. He doesn't have that finesse. McKennie's not really a finesse player either, but he makes those runs, which is really great when we have service coming from the wings. And he's pretty decent in the air. So I think it's worth, at the very least, a shot. We haven't seen it really ever. I mean, he's played an advanced midfield role for us, but not like a true 10. I'd love to try it out.
I will say he's not like a creative 10. One thing I will say though is that no matter what, Poch has talked a lot about how we're not going to have like one system. We're going to adapt to like what our strengths are. And if we're talking about just pure strengths, McKennie's easily one of our top 11 players and probably much higher than that. So I think whether it's a deep lying role, whether it's at the more advanced role of the 10, if you play him to his strengths, I think that can be, that we need to adapt so that he can play to the best of his abilities, because he's really a game changer there, and his mentality kind of helps the rest of the team thrive too. So, like Trey said, it's his deep runs, it's being in the air, it's playing with passion. If you're gonna play him at a 10, don't dick around and tell him to go create and pick out passes. That's not his game. Let him do what he does best, and figure out the rest of the squad to make sure that everything is covered up. Whether it's more creation from the wings like Pulisic, which he's more than capable of doing, a little bit of coverage, maybe two midfielders stay back instead of one. Whatever it is, this guy belongs in our starting 11 at his best.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the way Thiago Motta is using him at Juventus is almost kind of perfect to what you would want to see with the US, is he does somewhat float out wide at times to kind of help connect, and then he makes those runs into the box with, that's how he scored his goal. He got that header and had so many runs in the box where he just is able to create by running through and making runs in behind, and he just is an aerial presence. He can bring the ball down and create from that. So I think that is kind of what you'd want to see, and obviously you have a Pulisic that likes to cut in. You have other players that like to cut in from the wing and help out, and certainly both McKennie and wehre coming back will help out the US quite a bit from a non-inspiring offensive performance. And obviously Tyler Adams being back, Musa, you can have him in the midfield behind McKennie. But speaking of some of the other players that might be in this camp or not in this camp, we go to the championship where we had Brendan Aronson with a goal, Haji Wright with a goal and an assist, and the big headline, Josh Sargent, who has been great in the championship, not the greatest so far for the US, is going to have surgery on a groin injury. He'll be out 8 weeks, boys. I mean, Flo Balogun is recovering better than expected from his collarbone, but this really means that the only option we have that you would previously have said is one of the top options is now Pepe. Nick, I know you're not the biggest Pepe lover here, but Sargent being out 8 weeks didn't look great for the US anyways. How much has this changed for the US? Is it was Sargent going to play that much? Was it going to be Pepe anyways? Or is this a pretty big blow for the US here?
Look, it doesn't change much because no one right now is taking. There's been opportunity for everyone, and no one's taking it when it comes to wearing the red, white, and blue. So it doesn't change the fact that we don't have a bona fide starting 9. I think we have 1, maybe even 2 or 3 guys with the talent to be that, but none of them have grabbed a hold of it. I think it changes a lot for Sargent though, and how I view him, and probably more importantly, how Poch views him. I mean, this is going to be Poch's second window, arguably like his first real one after the injury crisis that they saw. And if Pepe goes out and has good games, if you're Poch, how are you looking at a Sargent who's, missing 3 months at a time every year? Like, how can you find form like that? How can you be consistently going to camps like that? I think it's going to move him down the pecking order quite a bit, and it sucks because I like the player. But at this point, like, I don't care if you score championship goals, you got to show up for the team, and unfortunately, he can't.
Yeah. Mike, do you think Haji Wright has been a bit overlooked at this point for a striker? Because, I mean, if you're thinking of your Pepe, you're saying, okay, if you're not grabbing this opportunity by the neck right now, it's like Balogun out, Sargent out. Those are the 2 people you're really competing with. It's Brandon Vasquez and Haji Wright, who's been really not given a chance other than at left wing, which, I mean, you're never going to break in there with Pulisic, so... Should Haji be given that chance at striker? Should he be competing with Pepe? Do you think it should just be Pepe and Brandon Vasquez?
I don't see why not. I mean, can't remember the last time he's actually played striker for the US. Maybe it's like the 22 World Cup against Netherlands.
He scored.
He's kind of forgotten as a striker. We even when we had big injury crisis, he was like one of the last dudes off the bench in the Copa America. He didn't feature at all, even though he had the heroics in the Nations League. I don't know what he has to do to get a starting spot or to even get a chance up top. I don't see why not. I mean, Pepe's fine. He's scoring goals finally for PSV, but the competition drop-off between the Eredivisie and Championship, probably not that great. I mean, if you're scoring goals in one, you could probably be scoring goals in the other. Why wouldn't you give him a shot? He's got the profile for it. He's got the size. He's good in the air. He's rapid. He links up well. He's got pretty much everything you're looking for profile-wise. You have to start him in the spot and see what he can offer. We haven't seen it in years.
I can't really remember a bad performance by Haji either. I've never seen him go, man, that was a really bad Haji performance. I mean, plenty of those with Pepe where he's just not been able to hold up anything or do anything. The last time we saw Haji, he got the assist on Pepe's goal. So, I mean, he's just kind of been producing for the US and just overlooked because I think he's been a bit typecast into that left wing role, which makes it a bit harder for him to get on the field. But Nick, what do you think? Should Haji be given that shout? Or, I mean, Pepe finally in good club form. Do you just fully give him this run out?
I think you give Pepe the first start, and I think you give Haji the second. I agree with everything Mike said. Something we did. He can pick out a pass too, Haji. Like he's got good vision. He really does a lot well. Yeah. So I guess I don't totally know either. It could just be like in training, you see the guy stacked up, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just not there. Maybe it's something off the ball that we're not as in tune with. But I agree. I think he's been at the very least solid and at his best, like game changing every time he's played for the US. So. I would love to give him a shout, especially with Sargent out, especially with Ballo out. And again, just somebody take this job. Love of God.
Please, somebody take the job. We have applicants. We have all these people. We're giving job offers like crazy. Nobody's doing it.
I will say I feel bad for Sargent. I mean, he was fucking awful, obviously, last camp, but so was everybody. And he is a service-oriented striker. He's not a creator. So how much can I really ding him for that when he wasn't getting anything, especially the second game when it's so strapped, you don't even have Pulisic. It's not a very fair shout. And now he's injured again, like he always is when he has an opportunity to shine. You do have to feel for the guy.
Yeah. I mean, certainly feel bad for him. It's kind of been the story of his career so far is every time there is an opportunity for him and he's in good form, there's some type of injury that takes him away from that opportunity. Speaking of injuries and being taken away, Tyler Adams made his return from a long injury bug of hamstring, back surgery, everything. Comes back for Bournemouth. Is now the third week he's been back. This time getting a long run out against Manchester City. Got an important yellow card to break up a counterattack, and overall just looked very solid, looked very quick, agile. What you want to see when somebody's coming back from injury, not looking like he's changed at all. And of course, Jedi Robinson also coming back with a game-winning assist for Fulham. They got 2 goals in stoppage time versus Brentford. Brentford cannot get away with any early lead lasting. But 2 big parts of the U.S. coming back here, which always leads the last question here of our U.S. men's national team corner. Up against Jamaica, first in Kingston, then we come back to, I believe, St. Louis in the U.S. Pochettino, what is this team going to look like? Who do you want to see from last camp stick around? And how much change do you want to see? We have Johnny Cardoso back. You have Tyler Adams back. You have Tim Weah, Weston McKennie. I mean, there's a real just shit ton of different players. You're going to have Pulisic back. He wasn't there for the Mexico game. How much does this change? And who do you want to see that was in last camp and maybe earned a little bit more time in camp? Mike?
Tyler Adams has to start if he's ready to go. I mean, don't rush him back. Don't make him play 90 minutes, obviously, but he's our most game-changing midfielder in the deep-lying role. Every time he plays, the intensity's always good when he's on the field. So I'd feature him for sure. Tim Weah and Weston get right back into the team. Tim Weah's got to put in a good performance. Still stained from that bullshit he pulled in Copa for sure, but I think he's easily the best winger, not named Pulisic, in the complete roster. And then other than that, I think we don't see any of the midfielders who started that last camp. Aiden, Brendan, Gianluca, none of those guys earned it. Maybe some of them make the bench, but no major minutes for any of those guys, please.
Yeah. Nick, it does seem harsh for Brendan Aronson, who just continues scoring, getting assists for Leeds. But as Mike said, he looked awful against Mexico. It didn't look great last camp. So is it just back to being a super sub for him again before we start? Or is there any way for him to fit into this team now with Pulisic and Weah and McKennie all back here?
I'm all for guys being given a shot. I'm all for guys, who have done well to come in and really get a long, hard look, get a start even. He got that already, and it looked shit. So if you don't grab the opportunity, then that's on you. We're not just going to feed you opportunities left and right, brother. You gotta, once you earn it, you gotta take it, and he didn't take it. So yeah, let him be a super sub. I don't care. He can try and earn an opportunity in the last 20 minutes, and if he does well, then maybe he gets a start down the road. But more than anything, what I'm looking for in this camp is Poch. We've talked a lot about how we have a lot of talent. Let's get the most talented players in that we possibly can of the people available, and let's see if Poch can use them correctly. Because if he can, I think a lot of people have been saying, and I have been leaning towards the opinion of, we can be a pretty good team. And if he can't, it's either Poch is the wrong guy, which based on the history of his career, I would argue is probably not the case, or we're overrating our talent, which can also be a strong argument as well. So I want to see if he can use the guys to the best of their ability. I want to see all the big boys at this camp, and want to see most of the big boys starting, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, we definitely want to see all the big names starting here. Mike, even with those big names starting, we've seen it in World Cup qualifiers. We've seen it even just last camp. But obviously, 19 players injured. Not exactly what you want to see, but struggles away in CONCACAF. I mean, they're hand in hand with the U.S. men's national team. You go to Kingston first in a 2-leg game, so you have the chance to come home and have some type of response. But how much trust do you really have in this U.S. squad, this group of players, to get something done in Kingston? I mean, a significant amount of talent on Jamaica. You'd still give the edge to the Americans, and I just think that road game is a bit scary for me right now.
Yeah, it is scary. I mean, the pitch is going to be what it is. It's not going to be good playing conditions. We have to assume that. Backline has to be sharp. No bullshit in the back with loose balls. That's still not going to be perfect. Whatever the center back pairing is, Chris Richards probably won't be around, not healthy. Tim Ream, CCV, both back. Yeah, not ideal, but they have to be good enough, and they can't be giving away loose counters. That's where Jamaica hurts us for sure. With most of these starters back, quality is definitely there. Think we could score goals. I fully expect a good result in both legs. Big double standard going back to players from last camp that we want to see get another shot. I mentioned Brendan was bad. Malik Tillman was terrible, but I would like to see him get another shot. He was so poor, and that's a player that we keep harping on, his ability. If he does get another shot, that's someone who really needs to take it by the horns and run with it and get some goal contributions or at least look good.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I think both him and Brendan Aronson have a lot to gain and a lot to lose, because at this point they've both done very well at club, but they've both also done pretty poor for the U.S. men's national team in at least at a starting capacity. So
no statement for performances, no.
Yeah, it needs to be proven at the national team.
Not any good statements.
No,
not any good statements. Maybe statements, but not good ones. Not good ones. But we will certainly see the U.S. men's national team roster released sometime a little bit later. The biggest American news that will come out this week, as I said at the start. Of course, I know everybody will be waiting day and night for that and nothing else. But boys, let's close out with a lock of the week update here. I already know that I did my patriotic duty by choosing Manchester City to beat Bournemouth. My jinxing powers are still strong, boys. I thought maybe after last season I had lost them, but no, they're back much stronger this season. I predicted Man City to win 2-0 versus the Cherries. Of course, that did not happen. Bournemouth and Tyler Adams getting a 2-1 win. Nick predicted Arsenal over Newcastle. I think he meant to put the one by Newcastle. Could have had it completely correct, but unfortunately did not. And then Liverpool, Brighton, Mike just one goal off there. If Liverpool maybe would have stormed it back even harder, would have gotten it. Mike, what is your lock of the week for this week?
Forgot to enter one, so we're gonna freebase. Give me Man United 3, Leicester 1.
Nope. Flags already took that.
Nope. I have already taken that game. So
oh well.
Why don't we go to mine real quick and give Mike a second to think? I did put Manchester United in. I put it as 2-0. Give me Gaspacho with 2 goals.
Where are they playing?
Go crazy. Bicycle kicks both.
Huh?
Versus Leicester City. Leicester. Nick, let's move to you. What is your lack of the week going to be?
We say back in the boys. I don't care that we're down. One thing about me, I'm gonna be in Arsenal's corner nonstop. So I believe we come out with a win this weekend at Stamford Bridge. London is red. Give me Arsenal 2, Chelsea 1.
Respect. Mike, have you had time to ponder your options?
Full America 3, Crystal Palace 1.
Is Crystal Palace in the bottom 3 or no?
Nope, they're just outside, baby.
Nice. Full America behind Jedi Robinson. They cannot go wrong. Boys, big week in Champions League. Real Madrid versus Milan. Arsenal versus Inter Milan. Juventus versus Lille. So we'll have Jonathan David versus the Americans. Canada versus America action.
Vamos.
What are we closing out the pod with here? Nick, I'll go first to you, and then Mike, close us on out.
Closing out with some depressed vibes. Just things are hard. But funny thing about rock bottom, only one way to go. We get 3 points this weekend.
Damn
we get 3 points versus Inter. And we will be talking about a huge Arsenal win next week. So make sure to come and join us for that. Again, thank you for all the 200 subscribers. 300 up next. Let's go, boys.
Let's go, boys. Mike, as you do so eloquently and nicely, close us on out.
Also depressing. Michigan State football sucks. Chicago Bears suck.
Bring us
Everton
down.
sucks.
Bring us back up.
But Barcelona are good, baby. We are very, very good and have an easier matchup at Champions League this week. So I fully expect the form to stay mighty, mighty high. Up the Couleurs, up Everton, up the Chicago Bears. Thank you for 200. Like Nick said, 300 next month. Bang.
300 next month. If you're not subscribed, do it now. Until next time, peace.
Footy with the boys.
Ooh.